This episode of the School Zone podcast is brought to you by School Spirit Vending, hassle-free year-round fundraising for your school. At School Spirit Vending, we do all the work. You cash the check. Hello, School Zone listeners. Matt coming at you from Stephenville, Texas. I am extremely excited today to have Darren Smith. Darren is the marketing director for the Outdoor School and Champions Retreat here in Texas. Darren, glad to have you on the show.
Hey, Matt, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be on the show.
So tell me a little bit about the Outdoor School.
Well, the Outdoor School got started in 1996. We are based at Camp Champions out in beautiful Marble Falls out in the hill country, about 60 miles west of Austin. We got started in 1996 as a way to kind of engage schools and have schools bring their students out and experience the outdoors. As we've seen throughout the years, the schools are doing less and less outdoor activities with their students. So we've kind of come in to fill that need, and we've been operating almost for 20 years now. We've actually, to the point where we've operated for 20 years, and now we've expanded to a second location outside of Houston.
So is the Outdoor School, is it a day event? Is it a week type camp? Explain a little bit more about the program, how it works.
Sure. Well, that's a great question. So we actually have schools that will come from a day trip all the way to a 4-night, 5-day. So we have schools that really go from a whole week to all the way just to a small school coming from a day trip. It really is up to the school and what they want to do. A lot of my public schools and a lot of my charter schools will come for a 2-night, 3-day trip, and they stay and they spend for like a Wednesday through Friday kind of trip with us. That's the majority of our schools.
You know, it's funny, kind of reminds me back to when I was growing up. I grew up outside of Chicago in a little town called Sycamore, Illinois. And my dad was a biology teacher and a chemistry professor. He ended up being asked for about 20 years to head up an outdoor environmental education facility for the school district that he was a part of. And they literally worked with schools from all over that district and all over our county. So I'm sure there's some significant differences between what he did and what you guys are doing, but it's kind of wild that there's definitely got to be some parallels between the two. What are some of the things that you guys cover and share with the kids, and what are they coming out there to learn?
Well, that's a really good question. So the way we kind of structure it is that we actually allow the schools to pick what they want to do. We have a lot of academic classes that are all TEKS correlated, so they are applicable to what's the state of Texas requires to be taught in the classroom. So we have a lot of academic courses that fit that mold, but then we also have a lot of adventure-based stuff. And we're based at Camp Champions and at Camp for All outside of Houston. And so we have all the academics, so we could learn about nature, we could learn about history, learn about social sciences, all the way down to water quality studies, learning about what the quality of water is, especially here in Austin, Texas. All of our water comes from the Highland Lake system. Well, we are actually on the Highland Lakes system, and so we can actually talk about what the properties of the water it has there that eventually will become our drinking water. So it's a really kind of cool way to take the outdoor education and actually apply it to the real world. But then we also do have our adventure-based, so we have a brand new climbing wall, 2 high rope courses, a thing called the Screaming Eagle, which is a human pendulum, which is just awesome. We've got lake swimming, we've got pool swimming, we've got team building, we've got archery, we've got fishing, we've got survival skills. So there's a wide breadth of different activities that the schools and students can do based on what they want to do. So we really help customize our trips based on what the schools need and want.
I've been to a camp called Mo Ranch. I don't know if you're familiar with Mo Ranch at all, out of the Kerrville area. Mm-hmm. And man, the ropes course, I'm sure your course is very similar. Absolutely amazing team building exercise and confidence building exercise. That was a highlight for me and the team I was a part of at the time, the 2 times that we attended.
Well, so Mo Ranch is very similar to us. They have a summer program, but then they also do outdoor education as well. And some of the best summer camps like Camp Champions have outdoor education programs. So there's different places around the state that have really good programs, and Mo Ranch, and I consider them one of the better programs out there like us. in every place. Is what's amazing is that all those camps are all unique, but we offer a lot of the same programming. But we each have our own skill set and our own advantages and challenges that we face. So for us, we're on Lake LBJ. We're on a constant level lake. Well, if you know anything about Texas, we experience droughts all the time. Well, Camp Champions in the outdoor school, we don't have to worry about our lake going down because it's a constant level lake. But every program has different types of high ropes courses and climbing walls and stuff. And so all of them are just amazing. And a lot of the programs out there we consider the best, including Moranch, are really nice.
So explain to me this human pendulum. That sounds interesting.
So the human pendulum is awesome. We get a student up and harness them up, and then a team of their fellow team members will, using a pulley system, will pull on a rope and pull the student up all the way up to basically a 90-degree angle. So if you imagine a pendulum, they can go all the way up to a 90-degree angle or wherever in between they want to be. And the student has the ability then to unlatch that pulley rope, and they're still harnessed up and still on a rope, and then they go swinging basically right through the air. So it's a really cool activity, and it's good because if a student only wants to go a little bit way or a student wants way up high, they can do either one and still have a great experience.
That's awesome. So in a typical day event, do they typically do a little academics and then do some of the fun stuff, or how do you kind of mix all that up?
Well, that's a really good question. The way we do it is the schools will actually select it. But we try to recommend, okay, if you're going to come for a day, maybe they do one academic class, one team building class, and one adventure-based, so a climbing wall or high ropes or something like that. We want the students to have an outdoor experience. So we want them to be outdoors and having, educational as well as fun. Because what we found is that by combining those different elements, they really get to have a unique experience. I've been out on the street with my, outdoor school shirt on, and I've had adults stop me, and they can tell me what they did when they were in 5th grade. I mean, these are people who went 15 years ago, but they can tell me, oh, I went to the climbing wall, and I went all the way to the very top of the climbing wall, and we did fishing, and then we swam in the lake, and I did the blob, and it was great. And they could tell me all that stuff. They probably couldn't tell me anything else they did in 5th grade, but they can tell you what they did at the outdoor school in 5th grade.
That's the power of experiences, That's awesome. Let's go ahead and take a short break. Are you an educator, administrator, or school volunteer looking for a simpler way to raise money for your school? Let School Spirit Vending put their hassle-free year-round fundraising program to work for you. School Spirit Vending. We do all the work. You cash the check. Go to schoolspiritvending.com/school zone for all the details. All right, we're back. So what is a typical class or group size? How big or how small can you guys accommodate? And
sure.
What's a typical school for you guys?
Well, there is no typical school. So we actually deal with schools all the way from that bring as few as 15 students to schools. We have a school coming spring that's going to bring 260 students. So we really run the gamut in terms of size and accommodating schools. And it just depends on what the school needs, we can help. And then I apologize. What was the first part of that question?
What's the typical size, and then just what's a typical school? For
gotcha. I'm sorry. So a typical group that we put together is about 15 students. So that's a really manageable group that we can assign one of our counselors to, our instructors to, and they help run the students through those different activities. So 15 is about manageable. Then a school size can go from 15 students all the way to 260 students. It really ranges.
So do you get a lot of students more from the city, or do you get a good combination of both, or what do you typically see?
Well, that's what's amazing about the outdoor schools. We bring students from all walks of life and all socioeconomic backgrounds in really all locations around Texas. I have schools that are from inner city Austin to suburban area to out in the rural areas, all the way down. I have a bunch of schools that come to the outdoor school in Marble Falls, all the way from the valley, which is about a 4 to 5 hour drive, because they don't have these kind of opportunities in down in the valley. So we'll actually have students, schools that'll bring their students 5 to 6 hours up to us.
When is your season for the outdoor school?
Our season starts really around September 1st, right around Labor Day, and it'll go all the way through Thanksgiving. And then in the spring, it'll start around March 1st and go all the way through almost to the end of May. So we really have we kind of follow the school year for the most part, except for in the spring where we start a little bit later.
So Darren, obviously schools are cutting back. It seems like, every day I'm hearing about this district or that district having to raise money or having financial issues. So how does a school typically pay for a program like yours?
Well, every school is different. So we have schools that are from the highest echelon of private schools all the way down to the lowest socioeconomic schools from from areas that are the most impoverished. Every school does fundraising differently, but every one of them, I say, do a kind of a typically of three different things. Number one is that they will do some type of fundraiser. So they're doing chocolates, they're doing cookie dough, students will sell those kind of things to help raise money. Number two is they will ask parents to pay a portion of it. And then number three is they'll usually try to have the school get a grant, do their own kind of fundraisers, such as having a Chick-fil-A night. And I have schools that literally will do all three in order to come up with the appropriate money to help fund the trip for them. But I have some schools. I had one school down in south of Austin that would have a church that they had a really good relationship with, that church would help sponsor that trip every year and pay for the trip completely. I have some private schools that they just pay it. It's just part of their tuition that the students already pay, so it's already built in. And then I have some schools that do 100% fundraising. Students have to raise every penny that they need in order to take the trip. So it really varies.
So what are maybe some success stories? I'm sure you guys get letters and communications after classes and after individual students come through the program. What's maybe a story or two that you can share with how the outdoor school has impacted the lives of some of these kids?
Well, what's amazing about the outdoor school is that the impact that we make doesn't necessarily come even in the next day, but we may see those impacts over years to come. For example, I just had a new school that came out in last year, and the director of the school that I'm dealing with, we're trying to get more schools for them to come out. He was telling me a story that one of their directors brought his school out, and his son was part of the students that went. And when they got back to their house the next day, at the dinner table, they were eating dinner and they were finishing up, and then the son wanted to weigh all the trash, all the extra food that they had left over. And the dad was kind of confused, saying, well, why are we doing this? And so he said, no, I need to weigh it. So they weighed it, and the son explained, well, if you calculate how much we didn't use tonight, and you calculate that over a certain number of days, we waste this much food per year. Well, where he got that was from our what we call least waste program we do during lunch. So during the lunch period, all the students are in teams at tables. And at the end of each meal, they actually weigh all the trash from all the students on that table, and they talk about where that goes, how we can reduce our waste, how we can be more efficient in terms of our food. And he instantly took that application of that skill and applied it right in the home. And so the dad and the mom took notice of it. They said, okay, well, let's see how we can reduce how much food we make to make sure we don't waste food that we don't need to. So you can see a direct correlation to what they did, even in a simple story like that.
Very cool. Very cool. Anything else that you want to share as far as maybe what makes the outdoor school special, or any other thoughts that you might want to leave with our audience?
Sure. What we typically like to do is have schools come out to us. Our goal is for schools to come out certainly to the outdoor school at either one of our locations in Marble Falls or in Burton, Texas, near Houston. But we encourage every school, even if they don't come to us, even if they're not close to us, to do something outdoors, to get outdoors and to have that experience, because it is being taken away and students are spending much more time in the classroom. We want schools to be able to have that experience and students to get that experience, because a student may experience kayaking for the first time at the outdoor school and find out that he has this love or she has this love of kayaking that they want to go spend, after college, go to Colorado and ride the rapids and work up there and be part of nature and help conserve the environment. So it doesn't matter where they go. We really want schools to do more outdoor education and to implement that in their schools, regardless if it's us, if it's Mo Ranch, if it's another program up in like the North Texas area, for example. We want schools to do it. So I highly encourage every teacher, every school regardless of what you can do something, even if it's to build a little outdoor garden or outdoor farm, whatever you need to do to get your students outdoors, because it's so important. It makes a big difference with students and their lives.
Especially today's day and age, when most kids are so wired with computers and tablets and all that stuff that they seem to lose touch in a lot of ways of just the reality of the world around them. When you and I were growing up, Mom and Dad would say, "Go play," and we spent a lot of our time outside, right? Well, the kids of today don't do that in a lot of ways.
Sure. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, when we were like, we had to be basically home by dark, and if we didn't, we'd hear this whistle that could travel for miles down the neighborhood, and you'd hear it, and you're like, "Oh, there's my dad. Oh, we got to go home," And then, when I got a little older, we would actually go down to our grandparents' house out on the lake, and we'd travel, and we'd get on the lake. We could be outside. We'd be outdoors and doing outdoor activities. So many students don't have that opportunity, and it's not even just the electronics, but it's also the fact that they're in an urban area that there is no really outdoor. There's no woods that they can go to. There's no parks. There's really no places like that they can actually have an outdoor experience.
Yeah, we moved out to Stephenville out in the country here 4.5 years ago, and because we had lived outside of Houston on the northeast side in the city, and we specifically did it, aside just from getting away from city life, to get our 3 kids an opportunity to be outside and to raise some animals and to have a garden and to do all those types of things, because so many of those experiences are being lost on today's generation. And I know a lot of the stuff that we have them do to help out around here isn't necessarily at the top of their list as far as enjoyment sometimes, but the reality is it's my prayer that as they get older, it's a lot of those experiences that they will remember, look back on fondly, and hopefully they will have learned some lessons and gained some skills that they can use, their entire life.
Yeah, I mean, what's amazing about something like the outdoor program, outdoor school, is that we actually have a garden. We actually have a small farm where we actually have goats and turkeys and chickens and pigs and different things like that. And the kids actually get to interact and actually see what a turkey looks like alive, and see what a chicken looks like alive, and see what a garden is, and be able to. And if it's harvesting time, we can actually harvest the vegetables that we've planted before. They actually get to experience that. So even if a student doesn't have access to that on a normal day-to-day basis, they can get that experience at the outdoor school.
That's very, very cool. So Darren, what's the best way to reach you if an administrator or educator or volunteer group associated with the school wants to find out more about the outdoor school and your programs?
Sure. It's very simple. All they need to do is Google us or go to outdoorschool.com. We're really simple. I think if you Google us, we're Outdoor School. We're the first one that pop up. You can pull up our website. We have all of our information there. There's an inquiry form there. There's my phone number, my email. It's all on our website. So everything that they do. And the great thing about our website actually explains trips and trip preparation and how to pick classes and all the things that go into putting a trip together.
Great. Well, Darren, thank you very much for your time. I know you got a busy schedule, but look forward to getting
school's starting up.
Well, very, very cool. Well, you have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.